Welcome back. I'm so glad that you have all made it here so far. In this session, we're going to learn about typefaces, or also known as fonts, which will give your content a lot more personality, and how to choose the right fonts to best amplify your message. Fonts, or what designers also know as typefaces, serve as a personality to your content. They amplify the meaning of your message, and they really help to convey certain feelings. So, feelings, what do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at some of the examples here. Depending on the choice of fonts, one message can be interpreted in two very different directions. So it is very important to choose fonts that best represent your message and your intention. As humans, we often want to know our partners better before we actually decide that person is the best partner for us, right? Well, that works for choosing fonts as well. In order to choose the best font that works for you, you first have to get to know the different types of fonts and the looks and the characteristics that they all carry. Fonts are categorized based on many types and classifications, but to get started, we can look at three main types. They are serif, sans-serif, and fancy fonts. So serif fonts have a little pointy extension at the end of the strokes, as shown here on the slide. Sans-serif, well, sans means without in French, so sans-serif fonts are those without the pointy extension detail at the end of the strokes. Fancy fonts include fonts that really resemble handwriting, script, or decorative fonts. This infographic shows each font and the personality they carry and how it connects to human psychology. Serif fonts like EB, Garamond, or Gentle Book, for example, they carry respectable and reliable characteristics with very high legibility. They are readable in both big and small sizes, so they are perfect for title and body copy. Sans-serif fonts like IBM and Plex Sans, on the other hand, are very modern and clean looks, perfect to express stability or professionalism as a company. And similar to serif fonts, sans-serif fonts also have a very high legibility, meaning that they are both great for big and small text. Last but not least, fancy fonts come with the most diverse personalities. They range from fun to quirky fonts to elegant script fonts to symbols and even decorative fonts. However, despite the wide range of personalities, oftentimes fancy fonts have a bit of a lower legibility compared to serif or sans-serif fonts. That's why we recommend to use fancy fonts in bigger texts like title and heading only, knowing the different types of fonts. The question now falls on choosing the right fonts for your visual. So how do we choose a practical, high legibility font that's easy to read without sacrificing your creativity? Well, here are some tips on choosing the fonts for your visuals. Please always consider going to your branding fonts. If you already have brand fonts, use them to create consistency among your collaterals, which is very important for your brand awareness and cohesiveness. Number two, if you have the liberty to choose fonts, you can go with fonts that best describe your brand personality. By brand personality, we are referring to how you want to be portrayed as a brand to your audience, both internally and externally. Such as you want to be portrayed as an approachable brand to your customers, or you're portraying yourself as a very reliable brand that values tradition. Number three, another option is following the style of your target audience and what they prefer, as well as the format used to approach your target audience. When you're presenting your visual to important stakeholders, we recommend using very high legibility fonts for a more formal visual. For less formal visuals like seasonal greetings, we can play with it a little bit and switch into more fancy fonts. So let's get into practice, shall we? We recommend not pairing more than two different fonts, and ideally they will be different types of fonts to create a dynamic. So you may be wondering, so I could only choose two fonts? Wouldn't that be super limiting? Well, in fact, we can do a lot with a pair of fonts. First, we can play with different sizes instead. We can keep the font size as a title or make it smaller for subtitle, but keep it readable on 16 to 18 point text. Secondly, bold and italicize to highlight important points or numbers. It helps your reader's eyes focus. And just like that, you can have a great and balanced contrast without the need to use a lot of different fonts. But only by trying and exploring different fonts, you will find your best font pairing. And we definitely agree that it takes some time and practice to perfect it. You can use font generators like fontjoy.com to kickstart your exploration. You can control the contrast level from high to low contrast, and simply click the Generate button to generate a combination of fonts. You can see previews of how the fonts will look in different sizes and texts. Some of the font combinations that we love are IBM Plex and Serif and Overpass. IBM Plex Serif complements Overpass really well. IBM Plex Serif carries a rigid, machine-like look that complements well with the sleek and modern characteristics of the other. And both fonts have very high legibility and friendliness for your reader's eyes. They are both perfect fonts to create a professional-looking report, presentation, or an infographic. Oswald and Yellowtail are also a pair that we like. The eccentric characteristics of Yellowtail font complement the classic style of Oswald and makes it look a little bit more trendy. The Yellowtail font also acts as an accent to highlight important keywords. Combined together, they are the perfect pair to attract your attention through your flyers, brochures, or social media posts. So, which one is your favorite combination? Or which one are you going to apply on your next visual? And with that, we've come to the end of this lesson. Coming up next, we will have a tutorial on how to add and modify text on Piktochart. So stay tuned.